In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace an exterior door threshold. And we're going to do it right now. So here I have a 32-inch exterior door in my garage. And the threshold, if you take a close look, you can see is rotting away. And what happens when that happens is you can stick your finger right through here, and something else that's happening right here, this big old hole, and you can tell with these scratch marks and how this is chewed up, that is where mice are getting into my garage and ultimately into my house. And I do not want that, especially after tearing apart my entire house, my old house, and seeing the damage that they can do with chewing on wires and just making a mess with insulation and all kinds of stuff. So not only is this gonna stop them from coming in, but it's also gonna protect from weather, snow, rain, all that stuff, and stop insects. And it's just, you know, you need a threshold on your door. This one is done. So with everything that I talk about with home repair, I always say to find the source of what's going on here. So obviously there's been water exposed to this, and over the years it's started rotting away. So for one, it is on concrete and it's in a garage. So in general, it's gonna be kind of humid in here. It's gonna have moisture coming up from the floor and it's gonna soak into that wood. So that's one reason, but also above here, I believe that the gutters probably backed up and water was splashing down here and getting in here and rotting it out. So if you can, first fix the source of the problem and then you can replace the threshold. And you can see that my door is starting to rot out a little bit, but that's not bad enough to have to replace the entire door. So changing out the threshold is gonna be a much less expensive fix. To replace this door is gonna be about 370 bucks. To buy a threshold with all the materials that I need, probably about 60 bucks. So this is what I'm gonna do. If I have to replace the door in the future, I will, but for right now, we're just doing this, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. Step one is to remove the old threshold. But before you do that, make sure you get the right one. There's some of these online, but the store was a little less expensive, and I made sure to get an adjustable threshold because some of them are stationary, but this will make it so that I can fill the gap under the door, and that's my main goal. And you just wanna match it up, make sure it's gonna work. So if I do this right here, it's the exact width. It looks the same here where the weather stripping is, where the door is gonna sit, so it should seal it up good. This is 32 inches, this is 3 feet. So I'm gonna have plenty because I am gonna have to cut this. So I know I'm good there, so I can cut this out, and I'm gonna use a Sawzall with a metal blade and hack this right down the middle. And the reason I wanna do that is because there's really no way to get this out. I mean, I'm sure I could hammer it and probably break some stuff, but I wanna be careful. Right over here, this is starting to rot away. So I'm gonna try not to damage that too much, but on each side, this one's pretty good. There should be some screws going from the frame in this way. Very rarely are they up this way. Once I slice that, I should be able to just pry that away. I'm just gonna be careful on the driveway so I don't make too much of a mess, and cut it. Through all the way. I got gloves because this could be sharp. A little bit right there that I think I can just break. So pull this up and I'll just cut that. There we go. Now this piece is coming right out. There we go. There's your old threshold. That side's good. This one is attached a little better, I think, so I'm just going to carefully wiggle it back and forth. You can see that. Maybe just some paint coming out. There we go. And yeah, so it was attached right here with staples. Those broke right off. I think they're rusted away anyway. So here is one of those staples. Obviously there's not much left of them, but if you had ones that were in good shape, you would just have to get these out of here, whether it's cutting them or hammering them back a little bit. That's starting to rot, obviously, but that's okay. Again, not a reason to replace this door completely if we can save some money. So that side is clear. Check the other side, and the other side is clear as well. So here, against the concrete, we have some kind of adhesive. We want to try and get that off of there as much as we can. I'm going to use a big pry bar and just scrape it. So it looks like this white stuff is actually caulking. I'll take an old chisel, and you can see it's breaking off like caulking. I was worried that it was efflorescence, which is what happens to concrete when it gets wet and the materials start breaking down, but I'm pretty sure that it's caulking. So I can scrape it off with this old chisel. If I have to, I can use a hammer. You don't have to get it all off. Just try and get the majority of it off. Probably just white construction adhesive, actually, because it's really tough. This might work better. This is an old taping knife. Yeah, it's getting a lot more of it off. Just try to make sure the sides are clear. So when we put this new threshold in, it goes in with no issues. That looks pretty good. Let's clean this up. Now that that's all cleared out, we're going to take a measurement for the new threshold. I'm going to hold it right to here. Luckily, my trim doesn't stick out past, so this is all even. If yours wasn't, and this trim maybe was in further, you might have to trim the trim or cut the threshold around this, but I'm going to be able to do a straight cut for both sides, so that's nice. Hold it there and measure. Looks to be about 32 and a 16th, a little strong. We'll measure back here, same thing, 32 and a 16th, a little strong. So that's what we'll cut it to. Something that I want to mention before I just measure this and cut it is I want to talk about this adjustable part of this threshold. You can see these screws or bolts, they raise and lower this piece right here. So if I was to hook on right here and go to 32 and a 16th strong, you'll see that from that cut, if I was to cut that right there, you have about 1/4 inch to that screw. And on the other side, you'll see that you have about 4 1/4. So just a personal preference, I want these to be even, and that way the threshold will also be adjusted evenly in the doorway. So I'm going to measure and make a center mark. This is 36 and a 16th. So we'll go 18, just a little strong. I'll check it this way. Made a very light mark, so right about there. And then I'll take 32 and a 16th and divide that by 2, which is 16 and a 32nd. And I'll hold it right on that center mark and mark it right here. And then do the same thing on the other side. 16 and a 32nd. And mark it here. And then I'm going to measure that and make sure we're good. Line to line. 32, oh, it looks like 32 and an 1/8. So I'll have to just trim that a little shy. But at least that way, the space from the edge here to this screw is going to be the same as the edge here to this screw. That's going to make me happy. I would recommend probably, if you have minimal tools, to just use a hacksaw. The metal blade anyways will get through here just fine. This is aluminum. Once you get to the wood, you might need a little more tooth to cut this, or you can use a reciprocating sawzall with a metal blade and cut right through this. Because this is wood, metal, and plastic, I'm gonna use a really cool saw that I love, that I don't use a ton, but it's gonna be perfect for this. This is the Evolution Power Saw. And really, the blade is the thing that's great about this, because it can cut through wood, metal, and plastic. So I'm gonna cut both of those lines with this. You can use whatever you want. Take a little more off of that line, since it is a little bit long. That's a nice cut. I really like this saw. Love getting the opportunity to use it. Okay, let's test fit it. Here, from the inside. And I got a rubber hammer or a mallet. Just want to go in even. Cool. Now we want to make sure that we're going to be in the right spot, so I'm going to close the door. Okay, that's looking lined up. Remember, I can adjust that threshold. First, I'm going to take these out completely. You just keep unscrewing them. They will come out of the nut that's in there. Okay, and we can lift this piece right off. Like that. Don't lose these. Need those. That's what helps make the adjustment. So for whatever reason, these came off of the bolts. So we're gonna reattach them. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit, but we can take this and put it off to the side for now. Just wanna make sure at this point that it is where it's going. In my case, I can't really go any further anyways because I'm hitting this asphalt. So that is where it's gonna be. And I am going to use glue to attach this to the concrete like they did before, but I'm also gonna add a couple screws. So I wanna put one right here and then one right here. Just two, just to help it stick. Once that glue is cured, it's not gonna go anywhere, but I think that'll help out a lot. So this is what I'm gonna use to attach this. These are called Tapcons. These are concrete screws. I have a masonry bit for these. Make sure it's the right size. So I'm gonna start with a wood bit and get through this threshold. Again, making sure this is in the right place, and just drill through right here. Just like that. Do the same thing over here. Okay, now I can switch over to the masonry bit. I found the correct bit for this, 5/32. Just see what it says on the package to what size bit you need to use for those screws. Put this in my hammer drill. Make sure it's on hammer. And I'm just gonna make a mark. Like that. Do the same thing over here. Now I can take this threshold out and finish drilling those holes. And as I take this out, you can, obviously, you've probably already noticed this big gap right here in the asphalt. So this is kind of a unique situation to me. You may have a similar situation, but if you wanted to, you could fill this in. I'm not too worried about it because this does have a lip right here where the threshold is sitting. So it should be fine. Again, up to you. Okay, now I can continue drilling these holes. Clean those holes out with a vacuum. Just clean this up one more time. I'm just gonna take this and line it up where this threshold is going. I could have done this when the threshold was there, but make a line so I know where I can or where I should and should not put the glue. And this is kind of the point of no return. I mean, you can go backwards, but once you put any kind of adhesive or anything here, you're gonna make a mess. So make sure your holes are drilled if you want those in there, and make sure this is filled in if you want to fill it in, and then you can glue it and put your threshold in. On the back here, you can see this glue is not gonna do anything for that, but you have this drop off anyways. So that comes out right about to the edge of the concrete. So that'll be perfect. I'll just put some glue right here. And I'm just gonna use construction adhesive. If this was a doorway going into a house, this was wood, I would likely use almost an entire tube of silicone on this entire thing. And I might use ice and water shield, like butyl tape. You could also do it here to try and prevent this wood from getting moisture to it. But this one lasted 30 years. So at that point, I'm probably gonna have to replace the door. So I'm not gonna take any extra steps to treat this or to put any kind of butyl tape there. Just glue. But again, you can do what you want. This is what I'm doing. No rhyme or reason to it. Just make sure there's enough. Make sure there's not too much. Why not a little dab right where those screws are going. So I'm gonna slide it in the same way. Be careful not to get the glue on the front because it is gonna push it. I'm holding it up to try and get past that glue. Oop. Tap. Okay, get that glue off of there. We'll tap it into place right where it needs to be. Just like that. If you didn't use screws, should be good, but I'm gonna install my screws. Nice. I can actually get this one in a little bit. Sweet. So I'm not sure what happened with these, and this one looks like it's bent. So I wanna bend it back to kind of make it look like that and make sure it clips in properly. So I'm gonna take some pliers and just flatten it. And bend it in like this, just a little bit. Give it a little tap on the concrete to flatten it. Now there should be some resistance right here, which there is. And this one, yep, so we should be good. Now I can put these bolts back in here. I'm gonna try not to scratch this up. The little thing goes right in that groove right here. So I'm gonna line it up and use some bigger pliers to try and snap it back on there. There we go. There's one, and the other one, I think I made that one a little tighter, which is what I want. I don't want these falling off. There we go. Okay, now all four of these have the bolts in and they have that snap ring on there. So we can line that up. Just wiggle this around, make sure those are sitting in there. I don't want to cross thread it. Start all four of them before I go tighten them all down. Just kind of wiggle it until it finds its place. Okay, good. So we'll tighten this evenly. I'm going to close the door. Let's see what I need to do. Okay, you got a little bit of a gap on the right side there. So just raise that up. I think that's pretty good. Now the only thing is the mice chewed through that side. So I'm gonna have to replace the bottom door sweep here. I've already done it though, and I made a video on it. So if you need to do the same thing, I'll leave a link in the description over to that video. But this is looking good, and you can tell that when I open this, you can hear that little drag. That means that the door sweep is dragging on that. But again, I'm gonna have to put a new one on there, and that's fine. So the last thing I would recommend doing is to take some caulking and caulk this in right here. I would use silicone And then if you got this perfectly where you want it, you can caulk this into, you could always cut it and adjust this, or it might even adjust with the silicone. But one thing you need to know about silicone when you're doing it is you can't paint it, so just be careful of that. I am not gonna do it because I might fix that, but really I wanna replace this weather stripping first, especially on the other side, because this is where the mice chewed it up. The only thing I'm gonna do, just because it's unsightly, is I'm gonna caulk in this gap right here, and I'll use silicone for that, black silicone. So if you had a door threshold that looked a little something like this, I hope this video helps you out. And the best thing you could do to help out this channel is to watch another one of my videos that will be popping up here somewhere after the outtakes. And the second best thing you could do is to join my memberships either on YouTube or Patreon, and I share tons of behind the scenes content there for your enjoyment. But totally up to you. No pressure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. B-roll, rotted threshold, B-roll. Is that efflorescence? I think so. Or is it caulking?
I think caulking. I
think it is, yeah. And at this point, this is kind of the moment of no return, which is what I want. I don't want these falling off. I don't want these falling oscophy. Why, Matt? Why do you have to say that? Stupid. Ah, there's a bug in my ear. Right now. Was that weird? Right now. Is that better or worse?
If you needed to replace a rotted door threshold, I hope this video helps you out. Make sure you subscribe for more awesome content with your buddy Matt, the Fixer.
Here's a little bonus for you. Was this bothering you throughout the entire video? A little burn mark? Sure, I could have picked a different threshold. This must have happened in the factory when they make this. It must have got caught on the machine and kind of burned it. No big deal. A little sandpaper. A lot of sandpaper. There. That's better. Guess I should have picked a different threshold. Pro tip.